so far away. It's so far away.
In this week's Impulse, we're going to sit down and talk about Red Dead Redemption, the original, the previous one. The previous game to the sequel, which is a prequel. So I grabbed Peter. Wait a minute, you're not Peter Dlakowski. You're Sam Moy of a channel on YouTube.
Yes, that's right. I'm Sam Moy, Infinite Backlog.
Yeah, that is a YouTube channel that we co-created like a lifetime ago in the time frame of the internet.
I'd say that channel's like our first video may have been 5-6 years ago.
I'd say in terms of like the first actual review content on that thing, it would have been like what, 4 years ago, 2014-ish.
Yeah, easily.
But unfortunately, Peter has not played Red Dead Redemption. He's also not really just bait into westerns in general. So I decided to grab a friend who is. We have both played the original Red Dead Redemption. We both have fond memories of the game. And on the eve of the release of Red Dead Redemption 2 to the masses, I figured we'd sit down and talk about the first game. Or, well, not Revolver, but the one. The one that most people like, other than Gun.
The first Red Dead Redemption.
So right off the bat, I think the most iconic memory that I have, and maybe because it's like fresh in my mind now, because I've been playing and capturing footage for this very episode, is the very first time you ride into Mexico. The song that plays by an artist called Jose Gonzalez, I believe, called Far Away. I've beaten Red Dead Redemption maybe 3 or 4 times now, and each time I still ride into Mexico into that game, and that song plays, it still just sends like goosebumps.
With Mexico, I thought Mexico had this very sort of mystical feel to it when you go there. Like, I don't know if it was foreshadowing for Undead Nightmare, but there was just that feeling of mystery and intrigue, and I think Far Away really sort of hits that note when you enter Mexico for the first time.
I think the thing that's so great about the original Red Dead Redemption is it's a perfect 3-act story. The whole build-up and the way you enter Fort Mercer and the whole build-up to that by meeting Wes Dickens and Seth and Irish and like forming this little group that are gonna attack Fort Mercer, and that whole setup and that payoff only to find out Bill Williamson is in Mexico. And it's so well done. And then going off of that, it feels like you are starting on a new journey into a new area. And it really sells at that.
And you know, it's to this very day, I still have a wee chuckle at the fact that the guy's name is Bill Williamson, which is essentially just William Williamson.
They were a gang of outlaws with a very, very poor choice of names. Other than that, I think one of the other things that a lot of people remember about Red Dead Redemption, not necessarily the main stuff, but the random stuff, the stranger missions as they're called, which kind of builds from what they did in GTA 4, in that you can find these random events and these random characters in the game itself, kind of spread out all across the map. There are some very interesting stranger missions in the original Red Dead Redemption that have me excited to see what they might do with those in 2. There's like a god-type character, or people theorize it's a god-type character.
God or the devil, you know, one or the other.
Yeah, this dude in a black suit, who at one point Marston even shoots, and it does nothing to him. And he seems to know all about Marston. He stands in very specific locations that are very key to the plot of the game. And yeah, those were pretty weird. And then there's some really bizarre missions. The one that comes to my mind when I'm not thinking about the ride into Mexico, the other memory that I have immediately of Red Dead Redemption is this one mission for this old man who asks you to pick flowers for his wife.
Ah, yes, I remember this one really well.
They're celebrating their 50th anniversary, and John Marston's like, yeah, okay, I'll go pick these flowers. And you go across the map, you pick these flowers, you come back, he brings you inside for some tea, and you find out his wife is basically dead. Just a rotting corpse on a chair. And my favorite little detail is after the cutscene ends, you go up to it and then the head rolls off. It's beautiful. It's one of the best memories I have of that game.
And I suppose it shows the eccentric side of a lot of people that you'll find in the game.
Yeah. Like the game has a very dark sense of humor.
And that's one of the things I like about it. It's just how eccentric and how weird some of the people are. You know, the glitched animal head people thing aside. Another thing I really liked about Red Dead is outside of stranger missions, there were also sort of just random things that would happen while you were riding around. Like I remembered there was one where this lady was mourning like a dead spouse or a dead guy, and I just stood there and watched, and she then suddenly pulls out a gun and shoots herself.
Yeah, and I remember there was you remember this better than me, but there was like a specific like dynamite one that you brought
Yeah,
up.
there were these two guys carrying boxes of dynamite, and they set it down, and like one of the guys might say to the other, hey, I'm gonna have a cigar, do you mind giving me a light? And they light the cigar and it falls onto the box, and hilarity ensues.
Another one I have is the newspapers in Red Dead Redemption. They are underrated. I recommend anybody who's playing Red Dead Redemption 2 to, if there is a newspaper in that game, grab it and give it a read, because they were brilliant in the first game. Not only that, but they also detail some very interesting stuff, as well as the tombstones in this game. There's these memoirs on all the tombstones you can find in the game. But you can also find some really interesting and specific things in both the newspaper and on the tombstones, specific to the year that Red Dead Redemption 2 is set in, 1899.
Yes.
One of the newspapers mentions the Blackwater Massacre with Landon Ricketts. So I'm curious if that'll play in any sort of way into Red Dead Redemption 2. As well as Cole McFarlane. There's a Cole McFarlane tombstone right outside of Armadillo, and it was dated for 1899.
You corrected me earlier for this, but Cole McFarlane, that's Bonnie's brother, right? Or one of Bonnie's brothers.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, she has a bunch of brothers. A bunch of them died. One of them went out east to be a banker, and the others just died in various ways. Including this one, who apparently was shot in the head in 1899 specifically, which makes me curious if Arthur Morgan might run upon some McFarlanes.
Or be that guy who shoots Cole in the head.
Yeah, but outside of that, Red Dead Online is launching, I believe, in sometime in November. It seems to be like another attempt at GT Online. I have very mixed opinions on that, but I really did enjoy the original multiplayer in the first game. It's more bare bones compared to what GT Online is. It's just sort of a lobby with 16 people, and you can just run amok, do gang hideouts and all that stuff.
The weird thing is that up until we started the Infinite Backlog channel, I would jump onto Red Dead Online and I would never see anyone on there, and people I've talked to have had a completely opposite reaction. They've gone into full lobbies, they've gone to lobbies with other people, but here I am sitting here playing the game by myself. It's really no fun by yourself.
I got the Platinum Trophy for Red Dead Redemption. We played through all the multiplayer stuff. We did all the gang hideouts, all that stuff. And then after we got kind of bored, and we sort of created our own games. One of which I still really like, and will still probably do in Red Dead Online, called Horse Jousting.
It originally started off as us having fisticuffs, punching each other on the top of a bridge to see who would fall off. And then one of us I think you got the idea that we should sit on our horses at opposite ends of the bridge, with like a knife or a tomahawk or a throwing weapon.
Yeah, tomahawk or a throwing knife.
Yeah, and as we rode our horses across the bridge, we would throw the knife or tomahawk at the other person's horse to throw them off and have them fall off the bridge.
Yeah, the whole point of the game was whoever did knock each other off the bridge first wins. And yeah, it ended up being like a surprisingly fun time. I think we spent like probably hours doing that with various people.
And our fisticuffs weren't restricted to just horse jousting on top of a bridge. I remembered another time we punched each other around a snake, and then we thought of a brilliant idea to have the snake bite us and see who would kill first.
But outside of that, there was also a place. There was a few spots on the map that this could happen, but the most notorious, at least at launch, I've noticed it's been kind of neutered now since then, since I guess they've patched it. But there was a place up in Tall Trees, a specific like cabin on the map that you could go to that would spawn cougars. And I don't know if it's dependent on how many players are there or if it was just like a random thing, but it would spawn like just tons and tons of cougars that would surround the cabin you're in. And we'd always go there and just hide in the cabin and then eventually come out when there's enough cougars around us, just to see who survives the longest. And I remember around launch, it was insanity. There was cougars everywhere. You wouldn't last like 5 seconds. Since then, I remember dabbling in it a couple of months ago, and it was much more tame. It was like only 3 or 4 cougars showed up, and I just killed them. Wow, that was boring. So I don't know if that's been patched or what.
Yeah, as opposed to like, you know, a dozen when we first played it all those years ago.
Yeah, I don't know if it's player related or what, so. But yeah, those were our fond memories of Red Dead Redemption. What are your favorite memories? Let me know down below. And hey, thanks again for my special guest, Sam here. Be sure to check out Infinite Backlog if you want to see some reviews, even for myself, if you go back far enough.
And, you know, for more of this sort of content, feel free to check it out at Destructoid.com.